Good evening, Erwin Jackson, 1341 Jackson Bluff. Tonight I want to talk about improving transparency and accountability in city government. And an example is about a year ago, I stood here and we had a couple hundred people here. We were talking about increases in property taxes, and we were looking at the budget. Several small business owners, property owners, got together and said, we've got some ideas. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Let's look at this issue. Let's look at that. And this commission said to Mr. Jackson and the rest of us, you're too late. This is August. All the decisions were made a few months ago. So next year, get involved earlier. So we took that to heart. A group of us from the Northeast Business Association got together, went over and talked with the Chamber of Commerce. We had a number of people. We're going to put together a committee. We had several accountants. We had several businessmen. We had lawyers. We had a group of people that's fairly knowledgeable with budgets. And we wanted to take every department in city government, go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and make recommendations to this body. Now, I don't know the details on it, but when that suggestion came from the chamber and NEBA over to the city manager's office, is what I've been told, and I believe it certainly didn't go forward, it was dead on arrival. I think that was a golden opportunity that was lost with a great deal of professional expertise. Secondly, I found out a few weeks ago that the department heads were going to meet with the city manager, and I thought, well, what a great opportunity. 15th or 12th, whatever, a couple weeks ago, I asked in order to at least sit there and listen, because I want to hear what the department heads really want before it goes through the city manager and it's filtered and modified, and before it goes before the city commission. And then try to have our group have some impact. Again, I was told, no, you're way too early. We were wanting to start back in January or February. Now it's May and I'm too early. And I was told, come back. There's one meeting, I think late June, but then come back. The public is really welcome in August and September. Well, that's just the opposite of what we were told last year. My concern is transparency is simply for a flyer or for an ad. I get the feeling that this commission doesn't really want citizen input, and I think that's a terrible problem. If I was sitting there, would love to have that kind of input, because there's some bright folks on this side of the table I think could make your job a lot easier. Thank you very much.
Joe Schreiber.
Mayor, just before we leave that, let me just talk about this briefly, because a couple of things that Dr. Jackson brings up that I think have merit, and then a couple that I disagree with. So just real briefly, one on the meeting, the budget meeting that the city manager has. Part of the what we wrestle with a little bit as policymakers and the government in the sunshine is, I think we do want to be transparent as we can, and I certainly take seriously every opportunity to do that, and because it sort of feeds some paranoia among some folks if they think, well, there's a secret meeting going on or somebody's doing something that I don't know about. At the same time, again, from a policymaker standpoint, we got to enable our employees to get their work done, and so I don't see that every meeting that a group of employees have, particularly ones that the city commissioners aren't invited to or in, they're not legally required to be open meetings. I'm not sure practically it makes a lot of sense for them to be meetings that that are there for citizens. At the same time, I think some of what he says is true, because we did say this last year. Well, yeah, you need to get involved in the budget process a little bit earlier. And so I want to make sure that we're providing a vehicle for citizens to do that. And I'm a little bit concerned that, that we're just saying, well, No, the public hearing's in August, come on back then. And then he's right. I mean, to a large extent, I mean, sometimes we feel this way as commissioners, that, by the time it gets to that point, the train is, if it hadn't left, it's getting close. So I don't know what the answer is to that exactly. I'm thinking that most of for instance, the information we got tonight on the preliminary look at the budget is public information. I mean, that's out there. And maybe there's a way to make that more easily accessible, so it's not something people have to go hunt through and that sort of thing. I've asked before and received in connection with the budget process what the departments, what were their cuts they suggested that didn't make the final, range. And it's interesting to see. I mean, a lot of it, I can see why we made the decisions we made. So anyway, I don't have a specific recommendation other than I want to take this seriously because, it is, I think, important to our citizens and not just the ones running for office that, that we have an opportunity to do this. So anyway, that's a long-winded version of saying that,
Let's look into it.
Yeah, let's look at it a little bit.
Tell me again what it is you want us to look into?
Well, I want to look into how does the average person, are we making it as easy for them as we can to follow what the budget process is? The timing of when the information is available, because, that was part of our thing. We wanted to start earlier this year, and I think we have. Mm-hmm. So again, maybe there may just be some miscommunication or people feel like, well, I don't have access to this when they really do if it's easy, if it's readily made available.
Mm-hmm.